we're going to talk about calibration training, how you become a calibrator and so on, and is it worth it? So I guess maybe tell people what your history is with it, why it interested you and why you went down that career path. And
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I was just a normal AVForums member, joined in 2004 and was, had a hiatus in what I was doing. I was part-time doing something else. And my daughters went to school, didn't need me to look after them anymore. Goodbye, Daddy. Actually, they stopped calling you Daddy at some point. No, they just call you Dad. And that's the end. But yeah, so, and actually by coincidence, AVForums brought THX to town, didn't they? 2011.
Yes,
London,
we did.
which is where we first met.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember it was a really big course. There were about 30 plus people on that course. There was a real buzz, and there was a huge variety of people from different backgrounds. So there were a lot of what we call AV installers, so a lot of custom installation people. There were people like myself who were just, come from an amateur calibration background. I had projectors, calibrated my own projectors, and wanted to learn more about this and was interested in going professional, seeing if I could make a job out of it. And then, that was quite a long time ago now. Was it 2011? A lot has happened, and our industry's changed as well. Absolutely. So the THX are no longer running calibration courses. You keep your THX certification if you're already certified, but that remains now that we have two bodies that are training ISF and PVA, whom I'm associated with, and so we're both running calibration courses in various parts of the world.
Right. So. That's if you want to go down the professional route. So the route is that you find a body that you want to be associated with and who provide training. So that's either the Imaging Science Foundation, who are the ISF, or PVA, which is Professional Video Alliance.
Correct.
Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't come unstuck with that one.
No, some people do, and I did the first few, and like you say, PVA. Yeah, unstuck. Nice. I got that one eventually. Well done, Jules. So those are the two bodies, and of course you pay to be qualified and trained, but it's not just a case of anybody can turn up at these courses, pay their money, and then suddenly become professional calibrators, because you are assessed after that. There are exams at the end, or tests or so on. So you have to be competent at what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think you need if you know absolutely nothing about AV and you turn up to a course, you're going to struggle. Help to have, if you to have been keen on to be an amateur hobbyist, somebody who's interested in televisions and projectors, some sort of, you've frequented forums like myself. You need some sort of background before you go and do that course, because otherwise you're not going to understand a thing. But you don't have to understand everything, and I think that's part of the value of a systematic course. We've all got, and this applies to many different trades, we've all got our own predilections. I like history, so I read a lot of military history, but it doesn't necessarily mean I understand anything about the Tudors. So the value of a course is that you get to cover everything. And so on the courses, both ISF and PVA will cover projectors, projector calibration, and TV calibration. So you'll get a little dose of everything, and you'll cover all kinds of topics from HDR to SDR, and how you handle that with different displays, etc. So you should get hands-on training with all kinds of different technologies.
And that's one of the things that has changed since I did my training, which is HDR. And it was Wild West for a long time.
It was
standards and so on. But we're getting to a point now where there are those standards. There are things that you need to follow and you need to calibrate for. And obviously, you do a lot of the studio calibrations as well. So color grading and monitors and so on. And these guys need to do it in HDR as well. So is it more of an extra day onto the course now to
it is for that? Yeah, I mean, I think when we started, back in the day, it was maybe 3-day course. And it's almost, it's at least 4 days now. I forget how many days I was in Italy. I was drugged up with night nurse throughout the day. I ran out of Lemsips. It's 4 days, and it's examined at the end of it as well. And the other thing is you have to. So not only is there an exam, a written exam, but there's also you have to submit a certain number of calibrations with the graphs and the reports, those calibrations. But I would have to emphasize that just like, when you're learning to drive and you get your pass, that doesn't necessarily mean you can hop into any old car. And that's the very beginning. And becoming a really good calibrator requires a lot of experience, a lot of practicing, working with different displays throughout. And new technology is coming on all the time. So we didn't have those in 2011. So, laser projectors and OLEDs were not even on our radar at that point.
Yeah. One of the questions that gets asked quite a bit is, how many people actually get their TVs, projection systems so uncalibrated? Is there enough of a business out there for somebody to work full time in that field?
Well, it's worth, certainly worked for me. I wasn't sure back in 2011 whether that would work. I think you have to be willing to travel around the whole country. I think that so that's a part thing you've got to think about. And I don't think you could do that. I would love just to sort of be based in Leicester, because the driving's exhausting. But there just isn't enough work.
Yeah.
You really have to cover a lot of miles, and I didn't really expect that, but it's part of the job. So I think the other thing is, nowadays there are a few established calibrators, and the level of equipment now it's required to really. Well,
this is what I was going to come on to, is the level of equipment that you have to invest in.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, as you remember, you could get away with a Chroma 5. Do you remember those? The little suction ones. You could start with an i1 Pro, but nowadays you're dealing with narrow spectral power distribution devices like lasers that require a little bit more than an i1 Pro 2, which I think it's got something like 9. I may be wrong, but I think it's 9 nanometers resolution. So you need something a lot more expensive now. So the cost of the equipment has gone through the roof to become a professional calibrator.
Yeah.
And plus also on the courses that certainly we run, there's been a change. We don't really get any hobbyists anymore. It's become much more professional. We get a lot of colorists. So this is professional graders who are working on your film and TV content, and they want to come because they want to know how they want an accurate display that they're working on. So it has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of costs involved in setting yourself up if you're going to do it professionally. Yeah. How much? You don't have to give me a specific answer here, but roughly ballpark, what is the cost nowadays?
Well, I'm carrying over £20,000 worth of gear. So, it's a Jetty spectro radiometer, which is £8,000. You've got a Klein, your colorimeter. You need a pattern generator like a Meridio. So maybe, between £2,000 and £5,000 for one of those. You've got the cost of the training course itself, which is a professional course. So it's running into, a couple of grand. So, and you need the software like Calman or Color Space. And both of those are, at least $2,500 each, something like that. And then you have your annual costs related to subscriptions and all the rest of it. So it's changed a bit since when we trained in 2011.
Yeah. And then as a consumer, how much are you looking to pay to have your display calibrated these days?
Well, it varies. I mean, people charge different prices, but I would say in between, something like between £250 and £350, depending on the calibrator. Yeah. And you can expect to pay travel expenses on top of that as well. The petrol, it's gone ridiculous, hasn't it? Especially if you drive around the country in a Mustang.
Yeah, that's probably not the best mode of transport to use if you're traveling around the whole country. But there you go. So there's that side, there's a professional side. What about enthusiasts? So people who just want to do their own TV and they don't have 20 grand to go and get the meters that you use and equipment that you use. So they want to do something, but they want to do it themselves. They don't want to pay the $250, $350 it is to get it done.
And that's how I started. I actually I got a Spider. God, they were that was awful. And that is the problem, I think, with hobbyist devices. There are meters that hobbyists can buy, like the i1 Display Pro, about maybe a couple £100, but they all come with a degree of error in them. They're not as good as the professional, like a Klein, and they need a profile against a Spectro. So you can buy software like CalMan for LG, CalMan for Panasonic, which means you'll be able to calibrate that display, but you're restricted to that brand. So you've got to decide what you're going to work with, basically. And if you want to do it with a projector, you'll probably need something else as well. So you can do it, and you can have fun doing it, and you can learn about calibration. But if you want that last degree of accuracy, you're going to need to hire somebody with slightly better equipment.